Hi folks, sorry about the light. I love, as you know, I love to do my astrology readings in the daytime because I do it next to a window and the sun comes right in and it's lovely, but right now it's just really bright. And so I've tried to quickly do something with the blind. The lighting setup was complicated. So it is what it is. There's a shaft of light here. We're fine. This way at least all of me is relatively lit up and the background is not overly shiny and blah, blah, blah. And more importantly, the sun isn't directly in my eyes, so I'm not squinting at you. We've been talking about me doing a quick video on Venus's transit in Libra, and the time couldn't be more right. I've really been wanting to get this video out over the past couple of days, but I have not been able to because it's a busy week. First and foremost, as we head to the full moon in Gemini on Monday, in about a week's time, less than a week's time at this point in time, just know that that full moon in its general astrology is tense and intense, right? It opposes Mars and it squares Saturn. So it can't, it can't be, there's a real, now, for example, in my natal chart, the full moon also is going to trine Pluto and trine Jupiter. So a lot depends on what is going on within your natal chart and what aspects any particular planet or lunation or whatever it is that we're talking about is making within your natal chart, because that will, we've got to take that into account as well. So while the general energy of the time, this is a way of saying that as you make your way, in the US at least, we have Thanksgiving this weekend. So I'll use Thanksgiving, but in general, because this video is being viewed by people who are not in the US as well, as this week progresses and as you head towards the weekend, and especially as you look at the weekend, I would actually say even by the time we start this process, I know it's not a full moon video, but I do want to get this out here. As this week progresses, there were 2 or 3 things I wanted to talk about right before I jumped into Venus in Libra. And you know what? They're all getting jumbled up. Bottom line is this. The sun moves into Sag tomorrow. A couple of days after that, Mars moves into Sagittarius. So for a lot of people, Scorpio season is now over. I will advise you to think about Scorpio season not being over till the end of this year when Venus is done with her transit through Scorpio. So we still have the new moon in Scorpio that opposed Uranus and trined Neptune. There's a separate new moon video and a follow-up video I'm sure that I did, as I had thoughts after that as well that you can look at. So till December the 12th at least, we do need to remain in a place of action, considered action, related to how it is that actions within or related to where Scorpio sits in the chart and what house it occupies and what that house stands for can serve Uranus trying to make us more authentic in the Taurus part of our chart, can work out and iron out and support, it's a weird way of putting it, Neptune's transit in Pisces, so that in the Pisces part of the chart, we're dealing with a certain amount of delusion on our part or deception on the part of others, or needing to just release and not control outcomes in the Pisces part of the chart. Then we have, at least as far as the new moon cycle or the period is concerned, to December 12th, it's kind of on the agenda to do so. So just because the sun and Mars move into Sagittarius doesn't mean we lose sight of these kind of scorpionic activities that we're meant to continue and to look at, because they will continue to develop. And the next new moon in Sag is going to pick up from that. So there's also not only serving the Uranus part of the chart, but there's also protecting Uranus in Taurus from things that may come up in the Scorpio part of the chart that could threaten it. So, there's this balancing act, because it's an opposition between the new moon and Scorpio conjunct Mars. What comes up in the Scorpio? What goals need to be pursued to support Uranus and Taurus, and what comes up in the Scorpio part of the chart that you need to deploy to protect Uranus and Taurus? Those are questions to ask. And how can you use the trine energy from the Scorpio part of the chart, this new moon and Mars trining Neptune till December the 12th to help manage and assuage either deception or in the Pisces part of your chart, or where you are deluding yourself or kind of being foggy for some reason, or where you really need to relinquish a certain amount of control, and where you need to exercise a certain amount of control to manage Neptune's energies as well. Very much part of the agenda till December the 12th. So please know that. And you may continue to find that you're dealing with that. As we head to the full moon and as this week progresses, we've got the Sun and Mars as they enter Sagittarius squaring Saturn. And by the time the full moon occurs on Monday, while the Sun and Mars's and the moon's squares to Saturn will be completed, the full moon will still be reacting and responding to that. So as this week progresses, just know the sign of Pisces continues to play, and as I recall, Neptune was a dispositor of the new moon in Scorpio, because Pluto was in Saturn, Saturn is in Pisces. That's right, Neptune was a dispositor. The planets in Pisces continue to, Saturn and Neptune, play interesting roles in making their presence felt as we continue forward. You know, we've had the trine to Neptune from the new moon about a week or so ago, and then just as Mars and the Sun enter Sagittarius, they square Saturn in Pisces. So we've got a trine, and shortly after that, a square, and then the full moon ends up squaring Saturn. The good news is that by the time we head into next week, some of this tense energy will be completed. You know, there's a leaf blower. It's actually a quiet morning, so there's this leaf blower going in some part of the neighborhood. I'm going to close the window to see if we can block out that sound somewhat. What a Neptune-y reading we're having as we try and manage various influences. Sorry about that ambient sound. It just, as I've mentioned to you, that when I'm in reading mode, everything that is extraneous sounds louder to me as I'm trying to focus and get the message out. So Sun and Mars move into Sagittarius. Still remember that we're part of, as far as I am concerned, some element of scorpionic energies are still very alive through December. We still are in the new moon. We're still in the new moon month of Scorpio till December the 12th, and Venus enters Scorpio. We're going to talk about Venus and Libra in a second. Venus enters Scorpio on December the 4th. So till December the 29th, some of the resolutions that we're looking for in the Scorpio part of the chart, some of the help, some of the aid, some of the closing out, some of the bandaging is still yet to come. Some of the solutions are still yet to come in December. So just know that that Scorpio part of the chart is alive, and if there are goals to pursue to support the North Node eclipses and Jupiter and Taurus and Uranus and Taurus, don't lose sight of them. And if there's a certain amount of healing and managing the Pisces part of the chart, don't lose sight of that. Because as we head to the tense and kind of challenging, you know, the two malefics, Mars and Saturn, are involved in this full moon on Monday in Gemini. Mars in opposition, Saturn in square. So all indications, there's a dynamism, but there's also potential roadblocks and challenges that may need to be looked at. So it could be as we head to that full moon, and some of that we'll start to feel even now, and even more so tomorrow, Wednesday, the 22nd, onwards, as the sun moves into as the sun squares Saturn, and as Mars gets ready to square Saturn around the day after Thanksgiving, you know, by Friday, and then as we prepare for that full moon, just know that we're going to have to honor the fact that we've been driving and we're at a stop sign, and at a 90-degree angle from us is Saturn. We're going to have to move first, so to speak. In other words, the Sun and Mars are going to have to take some action in the Sagittarius part of the chart that allows Saturn to continue to do whatever it is. But we need to contend with Saturn requiring us to take the Pisces part of our chart totally seriously and totally responsibly. So if we have not dotted an I across the T, we may have to deal with some element of that. And continue to deal with the consequences and our emotional reactions to that as we head towards the full moon in Gemini. Okay. Long-winded way of saying it's still an active, dynamic, and tense week, and the tenseness only increases the possibility of friction and energy and having to contend with things. And remember, as we get to that full moon, more and more and more, the cup gets fuller and fuller and fuller. It could be busyness, it could be tasks, it could be everything that needs to be juggled, it could be other people's emotions, it could be your own emotions, and then it could be these roadblocks that show up at the most inconvenient times when you're trying to get other stuff done. The second half of this year, getting to Venus and Libra, is such an interesting time, because since Venus went retrograde, the entire second half of the year, since the middle of July, has felt eclipsy. Change seems to be afoot. There are things there's a carrot at the end of a stick that the universe has dropped to us by the end of August. There could have been false starts, false beginnings as we head to the middle of September, where we went, I thought I was going in this direction. Why am I experiencing roadblocks? Some of those roadblocks start to clear, but it's still not kind of galloping time or cease. It's not time to kind of move forward at a fast pace, and we're feeling this. Things are not getting completely resolved. Even though the eclipses are over, there's still a feeling of spirit of the universe kind of working with us very closely, and in some ways limiting our options and maybe even limiting our abundance to move us in a certain direction so that we can pop out of it on the other end of it by February of 2024, January, February of 2024. So we've got to continue to remain vigilant to these signs and to move forward. As we do that, keep in mind that the solutions and some of the answers over the past, Venus entered Libra on November the 8th. It is now November the 21st. Some of the solutions and the answers, and some of the new moons and some of the lunations, and so, we've had, I think back to that Leo new moon that trined the North Node. I think to the upcoming Sagittarius new moon on December the 12th that is also going to trine the North Node. I think of these forward-moving carrot at the end of the stick. This is the direction that has energy and excitement and adventure and has a sense of calling and a sense of brightness. And then I think of these oppositions to Neptune and Saturn that we made. I mean, on the positive, on that energy side, we've also had the trines to Jupiter and the trines to Uranus, and even to some extent the oppositions that we're experiencing to Jupiter and Uranus. And keep in mind that as Mercury is currently in Sagittarius, goes into Capricorn and prepares to go retrograde, one of the aspects that it's going to make is squaring Neptune 3 times, but then also trining Jupiter, as it gets ready to go retrograde. So it's the trines to Jupiter and Uranus are going to come up again in December and in January as the planets move into Capricorn. So there's this forward flow and the calling and the sense of adventure and the exciting parts of the chart that have a certain amount of energy, and the light are the Aries and Taurus parts of the chart. But there's all this releasing and adjusting and actions that need to be taken in the Scorpio part of the chart. There's the fact that we had the eclipse of release in Libra on October 14th, which makes the week before and after December 14th, the week before and after January 24th, and then the lunar eclipse in Libra on March 24th, important dates and milestones. Any planet moving through Libra is also going to oppose Chiron, and of course conjunct the South Node, which is where the eclipses, which is what signifies where the eclipses of release are happening. So in the middle of all this forward dynamism, there's also these checks and balances and blocks and slowdowns and deception and confusion and murkiness and delusional thing, not dotting the I's. You have the planet of dotting the I's and crossing the T's and acting responsibly, Saturn in Pisces, and you have the planet of having no sense of grip of reality, Neptune also in Pisces. Now, Saturn, I really believe, is there in Pisces to help sort this out. So we need to lean towards keeping things really real and grounded in the Pisces part of the chart. And as this week progresses and as we head to that Pisces Gemini full moon, we may be The universe may give us a kind of spank on the butt or spank on the wrist or roadblock or some sort of like, you've got to take care of this part of the chart in the middle of all this kind of dynamic. You've got to have the I's dotted and the T's crossed in this part of the chart. And there's the opportunity to sort through a certain amount of murkiness that continues with that new moon trining Neptune. But we're coming, and you may already have felt this, we may be coming up against what it is that we need to manage as this week progresses. You may have come up with it even over the last 48 hours. In the middle of all this, because the way the personal planets are moving, Venus is the planet that's trailing. So we've had Mars and Mercury and the Sun and the new moons occur moving forward, and Venus is following behind. One of the things that Venus is doing as she goes through, for example, the sign of Libra right now between November the 8th and December the 4th, is to try and heal, but also bring opportunities and the potential for forward movement in the Libra part of the chart, and to smooth out whatever it is that may have been going on, particularly in October in the Libra part of the chart, that may have had a certain amount of edginess to it, because when the Sun and Mars and Mercury went through the Libra part of the chart, and the Sun, Mercury, and the South Node conjuncted around the time of the new moon solar eclipse in Libra, there could have been an awareness of what it is in the Libra part of the chart that needs to be released. So Venus comes in and says, let us take the edge off the communications. Let us take the edge off our relating in the Libra part of the chart. Let me bring some opportunities that you could potentially avail of that will help move you forward. So where does Libra sit? Remember that while the eclipses of release are happening in Libra, that doesn't mean that opportunities cannot still come up there on a more mundane level that we can take advantage of. That could actually contribute to releasing what we need to release in the Libra part of the chart. So where is the Libra? Which house is occupied by Libra in your chart? What does that house stand for? And to think back over the past few weeks and to pay attention till December 4th, what opportunities could present themselves and continue to present themselves, or do you follow up on in the Libra part of the chart that can assist with the forward motion, the forward movement signified by the Taurus and Aries part of the chart, or that carrot at the end of the stick, or whatever it is that is in your heart that you want to pursue right now, that you are being allowed to move forward to, but there are all these roadblocks that keep appearing that make us think, universe, why are you playing games? Well, on the one hand, this seems to be the direction I need to move in, and it seems to have a certain amount of support and energy and frisson, but then you keep also doing these things that make me wonder whether you just want me to stay put and not move at all. But as I said, we have that new moon in Sag one day before Mercury goes retrograde again. Luckily, with that new moon in Sag, it's not going to be quite as affected by Mercury retrograde as the new moon in Virgo was in the middle of September, where for a month, nothing happened. It was so slow for things to move forward. Since October the 14th, things have started to grind again. And this November the 12th new moon in Scorpio that I've mentioned to you, November 14th, 12th, taking us to December the 12th, can in some ways be the most active time to plant seeds to get the ball rolling again. Because by the time we get to Mercury retrograde, we're going to learn more about things that are in our blind spot. So first thing about Venus and Libra, opportunities coming to us from the Libra part of the chart that can help us smooth things over, but also move us forward. The reason why the timing of doing this video seems still pretty opportune is that any planets that moved through Libra currently will oppose Chiron and conjunct the South Node. Venus opposes Chiron tomorrow. So Chiron is trying to is healing something in the Aries part of the chart where the North Node is transiting and where the North Node eclipses now are taking place since the end of April 18th, 19th of this year. And this eclipse cycle continues to exercise influence till about the third quarter of 2025. And the North Node and Chiron are getting closer and closer. I wouldn't say that, as far as I'm concerned, they conjunct in February, I believe, of 2024. But I'm not considering that they're not within a 5-degree orb of each other. So I'm watching the getting closer. And as I said, it starts to create this pull again. But one of the things that you could pay attention to over the past 5 days, or when you think back even to November the 8th and since then, of the opportunities that Venus has been creating, what actions need to continue to be taken in the Libra part of the chart that can support Chiron in healing the Aries part of the chart? That's a question to ask. And is there something that comes up in terms of opportunities? Because it's Venus, it's a Chiron is going to ask Venus to bend to its will. So that's really, there could be a sense of needing to protect from anything that is coming up in the Libra part of the chart that could hamper or slow down or affect negatively Chiron's healing intent in the Aries part of the chart. And I wanted to, when it comes to the oppositions to Chiron, Mars opposed Chiron on September 24th. The Sun opposed Chiron on October 10th. Mercury opposed Chiron on the day of the eclipse on October 14th. The Libra eclipse, the eclipse of release. So I'm not expecting anyone, and even not myself, to go back to those dates to remember what was going on during that time, to correlate it to what Chiron is trying to do. But I do have a sense of, there are 2 or 3 videos I did during that time that are worth looking at. There's a video about the transits in Libra till the end of the year, and I will put a link to all 3 videos at the end of this video. There's the video about the Sun and Mercury conjuncting the South Node at around the time of the October 14th eclipse. And then there's the video about the new moon solar eclipse in Libra as well. All of this will give you context and will take you back to that time. I think that whatever was going on in the sign of Libra at that time had energy, and it may have had a certain intensity, and may even have had, there's both the opportunities in the Libra part of the chart that were connected to the Virgo cycle. Remember that we're in a Virgo communication cycle. So communicating and transacting, relating to achieving certain goals in the Virgo part of the chart remain, there's that video I did on the Virgo transits till the end of the year, remain relevant, till the end of this year as well. So when I look back to October, on the positive side, there was a certain amount of energy and investment in the Libra part of the chart to build on and to assist in clearing stagnant energies related to Venus retrograde in Leo and Mercury retrograde in Virgo, because that was the timing of when this was occurring, and to create opportunities and bring opportunities to help with the Virgo communication cycle, because the Sun and Mercury conjuncted while Mercury was direct in Libra, an important conjunction related to that Virgo communication cycle. And so opportunities were still being created in the Libra part of the chart during October. But there was also, because of Mars's presence there and because of this opposition to Chiron and conjuncting the South Node, an awareness of what needed to be released. Now remember, when we have eclipses and new moons, they operate both as a new moon and an eclipse. So in the Libra part of the chart, there may be this bifurcation around more mundane activities that are being more affected by normal annual personal planet transits, the Sun and Mercury and Venus, and these opportunities that are being created and what we're building in communications. And then there's a larger, more macro question of what in this part of the chart needs to be released to assist in the moving towards the North Node eclipses in the Aries part of the chart. It could be 2 separate things. So during the month of October, you could have been building something related to one part of your life using the Libra house, but at the same time, there could have been tension and intensity that came up in another part of your life related to that Libra house in your chart that gave you a broader picture of what needs to be released here to allow me to move towards the Aries part of the chart. As we deal with the Venus Chiron conjunction tomorrow. While Venus smooth things over, the thing to kind of pay attention to and think about is the opportunities that have Venusian opportunities, relationships, money, greater harmony, taking the edge off of things, bringing a sense of flow, bringing a sense of healing, bringing a sense of completion and closure. What actions can you take from a Venusian perspective to assist with Chiron's transit through Aries and the healing that Chiron is trying to complete there? That's the first question to ask, and to consider over the last week what it is that's come up that could contribute to that. Number two, what is that Venus is bringing that needs to be protected also with this opposition to Chiron? Now, that is less of an issue for me because Chiron is, it's not an opposition to Saturn. It's not an opposition to Neptune. It's not an opposition to Pluto, but it's an opposition. I'm more concerned about the third thing, which is, are there any opportunities that Venus is bringing up that could somehow hinder or slow down Chiron's healing? It's Chiron's transit through Aries that needs to take priority with this opposition. So find a way to use the Venusian energies in the third house to support Chiron's transit in healing. But keep in mind that Venus will then conjunct the South Node on November the 28th, the day after that full moon on Monday, on the 27th. So whatever intensity is building during this time, think about, even though Venus and the South Node are not involved with this particular full moon, look at them through the lens of, am I getting messages as I head towards this full moon on Monday that help me understand what needs to be released relationship-wise, could be financial opportunities-wise, could be joint finances, some Venusian things, could be creative, could be artistic. I would look more towards the ability to maintain a sense of flow and relational and relationship harmony in the Libra part of the chart. And signs and signals for what needed to be released were very present as you headed to the middle of October. The conjunctions to the South Node. October 4th, Mars conjuncted the South Node. October 18th, a few days after that new moon eclipse, the Sun and Mercury conjuncted the South Node and conjuncted together. It's really that October 18th time frame that we need to look at to say, okay, what happened during that time as we headed towards that time that gave me a sense of what it is that I need to release? And you might, as this week progresses and you head towards Monday, Tuesday, you might reach some kind of internal Venusian. And remember that Venus's energy is a yin energy. But there's something in the feminine part of ourselves when the masculine part of ourselves makes decisions and acts. They have a flexibility to them. They are negotiable, compromisable in a certain sense, even though that's not the word we would use for Mars. When it comes to a Venusian knowing, and particularly a Venusian knowing around what departure to make, when that feminine side of us internally gets to a decision, that is a really powerful place. And it's often quiet, and it's often internal. And there may be a decision to not get involved in a lot of external skirmishes or conversations or activity, Venus being pretty yin, but there may be a decision and a finality around, you know what? This is done. And over the next few months, I'll figure out a way as we head towards March of next year to exit this situation. But with the Venus conjuncting the South Node, I would certainly, the first question becomes, how can Venus then support the North Node energies in Aries? And how it is that we're supposed to, how can Venus, as we head towards Tuesday, the 28th of November, what needs to be released, especially with relationship to the two things that Venus really rules for me, relationships and money and finances and how money is coming in, what needs to be released to, it could be a way money is earned, it could be financial ties, it could be a nexus between relationships and funds, it could have something to do with a certain amount of conflict and intensity. I don't think that it has to do with You know, again, the things that were positive and more mundane and that we were building on, that were supporting the Virgo part of a chart and bringing opportunities in on a more day-to-day level, there could be an increase towards it. There could be something, there could be flow towards that as we get to this point on the 28th of November where the Sun and Mercury and the South Node conjunct. Well, it's not the same point though, but you know, as we head to a similar conjunction, the larger question as Venus moves towards the South Node, we've got to ask once again, as these Libra eclipse, the eclipse cycle we're under currently, is the new moon solar eclipse of release, the South Node eclipse in Libra on October 14th. And as I said, the more important dates for it are the week before and after December 14th, the week before and after January 24th, and then of course the eclipse on March 24th, the lunar eclipse in Libra. But as we progress here during this week, I think it is perfectly fair to lean into the tension and the stress of the blocks and try and get some sort of reconfirmation from Spirit with regard to, is this what I need to release? I think it is. I think that there were enough signs and signals during October that were outwardly and more yang intense, that there's some sort of confirmation that comes to that. Now, there could be a certain amount of temporary healing and a balm, but there's something about the relationship and the nexus between finances and relationships that comes to a sort of a head. It may be, as I said, a more yin feeling of, here we are again. All right, we're done. With the South Node, just be careful of not being dragged into something that, again, delays your ability to move forward in the desired direction, as signified by the North Node transiting Aries. Figure out how it is that Venus in Libra can support the North Node in Aries as this month continues, through relationships, through finances, the managing of finances, financial opportunities, managing of spending, managing of expenditure, figuring out how to manage resources and flow and create financial opportunities as well that support the Aries part of the chart. So with both the Venus Chiron opposition and the Venus conjunction to the South Node and the opposition to the North Node, as this week progresses, the opposition to Chiron tomorrow, the conjunction with the South Node on the 28th, the paramount question is, how are opportunities in flow and whatever Venus has brought to you in terms of relationship opportunities on new directions, potentially related to the Libra part of your chart, the house occupied by Libra and what that stands for, how can it support that North Node and Chiron in Aries? 32 minutes into this video, that is the question to look at and ponder, and to make decisions with regard to how you will move forward and action those. The 5 or 6 days after a full moon, you know, always the most healthy and balanced time to be productive. So you might find that as you head into next week. As we head towards the full moon, intensity after that. Now, as Venus gets ready to leave, one final transit, leave Libra and head into Sagittarius on December the 4th, she will square Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn has been, again, supporting. My cat just decided to mess around with the lighting, but that's okay. He's like, why are you talking about me? Pluto in Capricorn, sorry, the lighting, of course, has changed too. Can I do something? You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. Pluto in Capricorn has been supporting both the eclipses in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus. Transit, as I've mentioned to you before in my videos, the earth signs, Virgo, but especially Taurus and Capricorn, even though this energy is kind of at its tail end in terms of intensity as we head towards May, June of 2024, it's still where some of the opportunities in the building and the construction is. It's still where some of the excitement in the... So then we have to kind of ask the question as we head towards Venus squares Pluto on December the 3rd. And on December the 4th, Venus moves into Scorpio. A welcome transition. Because you know, the Scorpio part of the chart is even more directly alive to opportunities in a certain sense. We need Venus in Scorpio sooner rather than later so she can bring us some opportunities in the Scorpio part of the chart, because I have a feeling that, you know, it's tied together. The sign of Libra has the South Node, is supporting the Aries direction, which is current. The sign of Scorpio and the actions that need to be taken there support Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, and also can support, you know, taking actions that are supportive towards these Piscean energies that are proving to be such a challenge, Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. What actions as we head toward December the 3rd, the end of next week, actually as we head into the week after the week of the full moon even, does Venus need to take in the Libra part of the chart that allow Pluto to complete its transformation that it's been transforming? Pluto is, by the time we head to the end of December, Pluto will move into Aquarius. Pluto is only going to come back into Capricorn very briefly in the second half of next year to finish up the transformation that he has been creating in the Capricorn part of the chart since 2008. Remember, a lot of what I'm sharing in this video has been shared. There is a Pluto and Capricorn video. There are, if you look or search or, you know, in my video list, you'll see videos that support and extend these conversations if you're interested in exploring them. So we're heading to Venus in Libra may well have brought opportunities related to the Libra part of the chart that assist with us moving forward since November the 8th. I would think about what those are. I would think about how continuing those actions and availing of those opportunities can assist with the exciting and forward-looking possibilities related to the Aries and Taurus part of your chart. I would look at how it is that the opportunities that are coming in the Libra part of the chart can assist the Earth sign trine in your chart between Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, and particularly Pluto's transition in Capricorn, and assist that as you head towards the first week of December, December the 3rd. And I would look at what internal yin decision-making you're able to reach based on, it could be when it comes to Venus conjuncting the South Node, you could, as I said, it could be, you know, it could be something that happens as you head towards the 28th and as you head towards December the 3rd, but particularly the 28th of November where you go, and particularly if it comes to someone handling money or there being a relation. On the one hand, with Venus's presence in Libra, you are not going to be as edgy as you were in October with the forces or whatever it is that you need to release. You may still continue to be diplomatic. You may still, and you may, it could even be a gain. It could be that you know what you need to release, but you're waiting on something to come through. And so you decide that you're just going to smooth things over so you don't over antagonize something or a relationship, or you act in a Venusian way. Partnership, harmony, sweetness of tone, greater flow. But you will get greater clarity. It's still as you head towards November the 28th, you will get greater clarity on what it is that needs to be released in the Libra part of the chart. And you may need to just figure out if it's financial, if there's something there that needs to be just looked at and protected through that process. So as we head towards the 28th, potential for tension, potential for aggravation. So try and center yourself and try to respond where appropriate and not react. The other thing is that during the month of October, you may have found that you were taking much more external action through communications and action to build and create opportunities in the Libra part of the chart. With Venus in Libra now, you may realize or find that somewhere, even on the positive side, you know, in October, you may have really been putting a lot of energy into the Libra part of the chart, that with Venus in Libra now, that you could be reaping the benefits of, or you could be more passive in that part of the chart. Okay, so just pay attention to that. It's important that I'm doing this video and putting it out there today. I'm glad that I've been able to give you a heads up as you head towards Thanksgiving and into early next week for people in the States, and everybody else, as you head towards that full moon and Venus South Node conjunction, full moon on the 27th of November, Venus South Node conjunction on the 28th of November, to keep an eye out for building tension and stress. Keep an eye out, because we're talking about Venus, about how Venus and Libra and how the opportunities that have come through since November the 8th can be capitalized on to support the opportunities in the direction, the carrot at the end of the stick, as I'm calling it, or where it is that you want to go and what it is that you value, or the dream in your heart right now as you head towards February of next year, how you can support that. Some of that is through availing of opportunities that have come up in the Libra part of the chart. Some of that, as you head towards the 28th, is receiving even further confirmation about what needs to be released in the Libra part of your chart. Okay? But this conversation with Chiron, then the South Node, and the North Node, obviously, and then Pluto on December the 2nd, 3rd, as Venus heads into Scorpio, the most dynamic. You know, it could be that you make it through to the 28th, dealing with what you're dealing with, utilizing Venus to help keep you moving forward. And it may be that after the full moon on the 27th, as you head towards December the 3rd, the Venus square Pluto, it could be that that is when you take certain actions that really kind of move you into a more expansive sphere. So as you head towards the 28th, you may be deploying Venusian forces to just help you manage day-to-day events and tensions and stresses. Remember, tension and obstacles, potential, as you head towards that full moon. Unless that full moon is making some amazing transits. But even then, the energy is still, there's an air of tension, you know, a full moon opposing Mars and squaring Saturn. So keep that kind of respond, don't react mantra going as you head towards the 27th. After the 27th, once Venus conjuncts the South Node, but also as it gets ready to square Pluto, you might find that next week you are taking certain actions that really capitalize on whatever it is that Venus has brought to you in terms of opportunities for forward movement since November 8th. There you have it. I'm going to upload this video, put the links to those 3 videos that I've talked about once I'm done processing it, and we will leave it at that and then continue to move forward. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your patience. I know it's been a second. It's a busy week. I do want to move forward and start to talk about Mercury's transit through Sagittarius. Know that on November the 25th, Mercury enters its shadow period. So from November the 25th to about January 8th, I think it is. Do I have these dates already? Give me 1 second. I may have them. I may not have them. Irrespective. I don't want to keep you on for too long unnecessarily. I may not have them yet. Oh, November 25th to January 20th is when Mercury will be in the degrees that it's going to be retrograding. So I'm glad I'm giving you that heads up. You know, as we head into the weekend again, Mercury will be in that area that it will retrograde. We're not going to feel the retrograde till we head towards the middle of December, but it's always interesting to have a sense of when Mercury is entering those degrees. We're starting to enter a more dynamic time, which is nice. But movement and dynamism means that we are leaving somewhere to go somewhere. And all of that also implies a certain amount of friction. Okay, I hope you found this useful. If you did, feel free to. I know that this is a much more, there are videos that I do that might be, I hope that for people who don't know their birth chart and who are not astrology aficionados, there's something useful in this. If anything, just to have an awareness as you head towards this full moon, just pay attention to where the blocks are and what the messages are with regard to what you need to sort out moving forward and what you need to take more responsibility to allow you to move forward in the direction that you want to. For those of you who know your chart, that is really who this video is going to be most interesting to or inspiring to. Where does Libra sit in your chart? What opportunities have come through since November 8th that you can act on next week to help you move forward in the Aries and Taurus part of the chart? And until then, contemplate, you know, what is it that how you can utilize the Venusian energies to assist Chiron's transit. And as you head towards that full moon, if you get further signals around what needs to be released in the Libra part of the chart. You know, there is this air of, because I did this video on opposition season, there is this air of somehow carrying a flame till the end of December while protecting it. So just watch out for that. And on the one hand, the lunations and even Venus coming into Scorpio in December is welcome because she will trine Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, but don't lose sight of the fact that as we head to the end of this week, we have these two squares with the Sun and Mars that are not, and you know, the full moon, that's what this full moon on Monday is about. So something is going to start to build, if it hasn't started building already, that is going to make you very aware of what needs to be handled, of where you need, what you need to get real about in the Pisces part of your chart, and handle with a certain amount of responsibility and meticulousness. And you may choose to handle it by Monday. You may just choose to observe what is coming up and start to take action after that. You may choose to use Venus's energy, and when it is that you can check and see when Venus trines Saturn and when Venus trines Neptune in December, you can use that energy to help put some solutions in place to tackle whatever it is that is coming up. But that is until after December the 4th. If you found the video useful, feel free to share it, tell your friends about it, comment, like, comments and likes, give it greater circulation, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, click on the wiggly bell on top, and you'll be notified when I do new videos. Thank you, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.